Really close UFO encounters. Hello. I'm curious how many here have had a very close encounter with crafts, more specifically flying saucers, though I'd love to hear about any sort you couldn't explain. I'd love to discuss it and hear your experience. It's pretty paradigm shifting, but it's not a topic I've ever had the pleasure of discussing with people outside of my family. For everyone else that's curious, here's my family's experience. The experience. My family witnessed extremely low flying saucers one evening in 1996 in Texas. It was over our neighborhood around 9 or 10 p.m. I could see the way the saucers were built underneath, though it was very simple in design. It was the stereotypical flying saucer shape from the vantage point of viewing it right underneath. I caught 2 whole saucers and most of the third as it was being obscured by the trees by the time I was outside the door. My father was the first to spot them and yelled for us. I mean, he yelled. In Spanish, "Myname, Mom's name, come out here now." I remember thinking, assuming someone was trying to rob us or break into our house. Because he has never and since then has never been the type to yell like that, so it was alarming. He liked to stargaze often due to having witnessed UFOs in the late 80s with a group he meditated with. Just lights in the sky, so the whole concept wasn't new to our family. And yes, I realize that'll make some naysayers go see? See? A biased experience. Dudes, believe or don't believe whatever you want to. I sincerely don't care. The crafts were completely silent, yada yada. Genuinely, it was your stereotypical flying saucer. 2 final details I want to share here, and these are purely from my father's perspective. My father claims he saw one of them have a steady, glowing orange ring of light from underneath. It wasn't pulsating. I don't recall seeing any orange lights by the time I got out. But I have to restate, these were close enough for us to see how they were built underneath. And I could see a seam shown in the drawing. I slapped together a crude Photoshop image here to show roughly how close they appeared visually. I used a random Google Street neighborhood with a similar configuration for reference. I have no idea of the actual distance. I opted to create this from a third-person perspective to give a better sense of the perceived distance, but consider this a rough approximation. You would simply have seen 3 perfect circles with that inner seam and one being partially covered by the trees with first-person POV. The other detail is where it gets a bit spooky, and I can only take him at his word with some hesitation. He said it appeared as if they were heading straight towards him at a downward angle before he screamed out for us. And he claims that the instant he did so, they did a sharp, obtuse angled turn into a different direction, heading towards the back of our side of the neighborhood. And this is when me and then my mother showed up at the front lawn. They were not going super fast. I'd describe it as cruising, but still moving along enough at a pace to where you'd no longer see them after 15 to 20 seconds from our vantage point. There are a lot of trees and homes here that would obscure the view rather quickly. I don't know what to make of this last detail, and if I'm honest, I figured he maybe imagined it. But it feels wrong given the shared experience of having witnessed some bloody flying saucers. Regardless, take it however you like. Only in recent years did I start believing he may have witnessed a possible near abduction, or at least, leaning towards a well maybe. Other than just a coincidence, it's definitely just a bit of tongue-in-cheek speculating of what the intent was, if any. It's interesting, if nothing else. Idle thoughts, not really important, so feel free to skip. My mother didn't believe in the idea of extraterrestrials and was a hardcore Christian. And after witnessing the saucers, she was the last one out the door and caught the last 2 before they cruised out of sight. She would refer to the crafts as demons, lol. I always found it quite strange that, even despite being a religious woman, she would never talk about it again, given how profound I found that moment. I was a teen then. My dad and I talk about that memory all the time, however. Regardless of one's denomination, how can you not talk about it? I'll never get that mentality. But she was a pretty straightforward and simple, God-fearing woman, so perhaps that's all it takes. Anyway, ever since that night, I'll go out for a couple of minutes some evenings hoping to see something like it again, although I don't want to experience anything beyond just seeing the craft. I'm still terrified of these beings given that in the few abductee stories I've read, the ones that seem potentially credible at least, they seem disinclined to communicate, to leave any word of comfort or anything. Me and my father talk about this often, and I asked him, "Don't you find it disturbing that they would traumatize a person so much for the sake of doing whatever experiments on us? And not even give the courtesy of saying some few words of comfort as they inject, biopsy, or whatever the fuck us? Are we truly that insignificant to them that they can't even deign to speak a single word?" It makes me sad to think what the implications of that is, but I digress. Despite that sentiment, I can't express how genuinely grateful I am to have witnessed something so bizarre and literally out there. It makes life and reality infinitely more flavorful and just. It's amazing, and there are no words. And it's hilarious, because I know most people I share this with won't believe me, and that's fine. I sympathize with your frustrations, and just as equally wish the US Gov and military would be more transparent about this subject. Easing up on the paranoia that being more forthcoming on matters we can't control equate to aiding enemy countries getting ahead of us. I doubt any of them understand this phenomena, either. But maybe there's an angle there I'm missing. I doubt it's due to being afraid of mass hysteria. People have shown to be more resilient than that. Final, more relevant thoughts. I've been asked by friends, how do I know these aren't secret military crafts that happen to be saucer-shaped? Well, the fact is, I can't possibly know that I wasn't physically inside that craft. So I say the following as my personal beliefs. I do not believe we are capable of making perfect flying discs that are completely silent. I do believe our military or whoever have possibly obtained such technology crafts from retrievals. I do believe the military and such personnel have witnessed impossible maneuvers and speeds in their own UFO experiences. I believe those pilots. I don't believe humans are anywhere close to this level of physics-breaking tech. So with all this in mind, I am very comfortable and perfectly accepting of the idea of other intelligent life having visited us. And knowing more than our vain, little ungu-bungu ape-brained species, who once believed the sun revolved around the earth. And not that long ago, in the grand scheme of human history. The universe, existence itself, is too large for me to comprehend and, for me at least, to accept we're the smartest species that have it all figured out. In any case, that's my and my family's experience. Cheers, and hope it was an entertaining dinner read for the perpetual skeptics out there. No hate towards ya. I'm hoping you guys get something good soon. Apologies for any bad grammar. I tried my best but too lazy to proofread this again. Post from user Forest of Dreams at Reddit.